Good morning, metalheads of the internet, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Metal Meltdown. Today we are talking about the latest studio album from Kardashev entitled Alunea. This is the third full-length studio album from this self-proclaimed deaf gaze band. Now what is deaf gaze, you ask right now, interrupting me? How rude. You're so rude. God. Lucky for you, I'm not. I will answer your question. Deaf gaze is, as the name suggests, a combination of death metal influences and shoegaze influences. But to be even more specific for all the subgenre nerds out there, Kardashev have basically been blending elements of progressive and technical death metal and deathcore and shoegaze and blackgaze into one big, wild, lush, evocative, high-concept, celestial, and volatile concoction and combination. Death gaze. I first came to know of Kardashev back in 2022 with the release of their sophomore album, Liminal Right, which at the time I liked but didn't really get. I didn't really fully appreciate what the record was kind of about and what Kardashev was kind of trying to do on that record. But as time has gone on, it has resonated with me more and more. It has grown on me more and more. Mostly, I will say, because of the story, because of the concept of the album, with this unnamed protagonist making a pilgrimage to their childhood home and finding security and comfort in nostalgia in the past as he struggles and lives with dementia and slowly passes. I watched both of my grandparents on my mom's side battle dementia for years and years, and it was a grueling, devastating experience through and through. And that's why that story really resonates with me after all this time. It's so heartfelt, so mournful, and I just think it's a really, really powerful story, complemented by a really unique sound. Again, fusing all of these different elements from across the metal spectrum together into something lush and grandiose and evocative, and also quite volatile. Because of this, I was already quite pumped for and interested in this new album, Alunea, but I became more pumped for and interested in Alunea after speaking to Kardashev lead singer Mark Garrett here on the Metal Meltdown. And in our conversation, Mark confirmed that Alunea was also the sequel to the 27 EP The Almanac, continuing that story and picking up quite literally where that EP left off. With another officially, or at least technically, unnamed protagonist. Side note, apparently the Kardashev guys refer to this protagonist occasionally as Kent. Traveling the stars, traveling through time and space, and happening upon a new world with new culture and new life and such. And I'm not gonna lie to you, straight up, right off the bat, I'm gonna let you know, I find myself preferring the story of Liminal Right over the story of Alunea. Now, I can see that there's definitely some bias here. I've always preferred more personal, more grounded, introspective stories over more vast, exploratory, high-concept kind of sci-fi stuff. It doesn't help that Liminal Right also goes into territory that I'm very familiar with, that I can relate to and understand way more so on a very deep personal level. And that's also not to say that Alunea is not itself very interesting story-wise and conceptually. I like how vast it feels. I like the size and scale of it. I like how big and celestial it is. I like the vibe of it. Alunea also makes up for not having as strong and striking of a story by being musically more vibrant and dynamic and powerful. There are so many surgically precise and powerful, towering technical moments, so many lush atmospherics and beautiful, simplistic choruses contrasting with really harsh, extreme metal. You've got the opening number, A Precipice a Door, which does a really good job at starting this album off on a really big and cinematic note. It's filled with towering walls of metal guitars and harsh vocals, and it's complemented by and contrasted with clean vocals and various atmospherics and shoegazy textures and elements as well. And like Mark really was not kidding when he said that this album picks up literally exactly where the Almanac left off, with the ending of that EP transitioning into the beginning of this album and building up to an explosion of heavenly choral vocals that kind of sounds like Cynic having some some kind of spiritual awakening. Then there's the following number, Reunion, which does a really great job at combining very expressive, very emotive, very technical and progressive riffage and songcraft and songwriting into a very powerful little deaf gaze wrecking ball. And the way that it eventually integrates and folds in more melodic elements, more atmospheric elements, and quieter bits as well, kind of feels like a mix of like 2013 Conscious Seed of Light era Rivers of Nile and more modern day The Work upcoming self-titled album era Rivers of Nile. Then on Seed of the Night we have some very passionate clean vocal theatrics combined with some pummeling, pounding, gritty riffage. Kind of feels like Coheed and Cambria trying their hands at doing some progressive death metal. And right around the middle, things start to feel a little bit more blackgazy than they do deathgazy, with these sections of agonized, distressed, wailing vocals and these very simplistic, chanting, kind of like mournful harmonies, transitioning into melancholic, towering, ascending, tremolo, black metal guitars. Speak Silence kind of caught me off guard as well. I feel like it weirdly has these more energetic, kind of like melodic death black metal sprawls and riffs here and there. Like I feel like it genuinely has a little bit more spice and momentum behind it, and this combined with the more progressive songcraft and technical moments and the atmospheric textures and these more grand, lush harmonies and melodies and vocals and such, it brings to mind a weird mishmash of like Alcest, like the most aggressive elements of Alcest, and like Traced in Air era Cynic. And frankly, cuts like We Could Fold the Stars and Below Sun and Soil are just straight up beautiful. The former of which has a really interesting and unique combination of like post-metal, blackgaze, melodic and progressive and like deathcore influences and riffs and spices all throughout, whereas the latter just closes this album out on a really massive, climactic, epic note. Like, it just sounds absolutely massive. I feel like if bands like Fallujah or Black Crown Initiate were to go into like a blackgaze kind of territory, it might sound a little bit something like this. Production-wise, too, I'd say this is a big improvement on Liminal Right. I feel like it just has a lot more life and body and color to it. It has more heft, more muscle, more punch, but it's still a very clean record. It's still very well polished and produced, very well put together, and as big as things get, it never gets overwhelming. I'm feeling a pretty solid 4 to 5 on this bad boy, and honestly, if we did have a story that did resonate with me as much as Liminal Rights, we would honestly maybe even be looking at a 4.5 out of 5. It improves upon Liminal Right in almost every single way. I like how it connects to older Kardashev records as well. It's got some of the most robust, dynamic, versatile, vibrant music that I've heard from Kardashev thus far, and I'm honestly inclined to say that out of everything I have heard from Kardashev thus far, this might be my favorite, at least musically speaking. If we were to get an album that had this level of production and music and the story of Liminal Right, I think Kardashev have like a perfect album, a really incredible, truly fantastic album on their fucking hands. And that's something they can hopefully work to in the fucking future. But that bridge, like all others in life, can only be crossed if and when we arrive to it. So for now, 4 out of 5, Alunea, great album. The most I've enjoyed a Kardashev album musically. Definitely check it out. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I am not an expert, nor do I claim to be. So what do you think? Do you like this album? Do you not like this album? And what do you want to hear from me next? Thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe. Boom, Kardashev interview. Boom, something else, I don't know. Join us on Discord, and as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.